In this lesson, we'll walk through manual certificate enrollment end-to-end. You'll request, issue, install, and validate certificates using MMC, web enrollment, certreq, and PowerShell, so you can confidently secure users, computers, and services even when automatic enrollment isn't available. Up to this point, you've built the PKI foundation, set up the Azure and Active Directory lab, and installed and configured an enterprise CA with templates. Now we'll shift into the practical side, manually requesting, issuing, installing, and verifying certificates, so you understand the full process before we automate it. Manual enrollment is a pull process. Nothing happens until someone explicitly asks for a certificate. A user, device, or service generates a request, usually creating a new key pair. AddCS then evaluates that request against templates, permissions, and CA policy to decide whether to issue. If it's approved, the certificate is created and must be installed into the correct store, bound to its private key. Finally, you validate that certificate to confirm it's trusted and suitable for the intended use. Manual enrollment isn't one size fits all, so you choose the right tool for the job. Use the Certificates MMC when an admin or help desk technician is interactively requesting user or computer certificates. Turn to web enrollment mainly in legacy or lab environments, especially when you're learning browser-based requests. Certreq is ideal for servers and services, where you need strict, repeatable control using INF files. PowerShell is your option for scripting, automation, and integrating enrollment into larger workflows. Manual enrollment only works when 4 prerequisites line up. First, the enterprise CA must be online, reachable, and properly published in Active Directory. Second, the correct certificate template has to be enabled on that CA and configured for the scenario you're supporting. Third, the requester needs read and enroll permissions on that template. And finally, the client must reach domain controllers and automatically discover the enterprise CAA. MMC-based enrollment is your manual, on-demand way to get user certificates directly from the enterprise CA. You work in the context of the current user, so whatever you request ends up in that user's personal store. After launching the certificate snap-in for the current user, run the enrollment wizard and pick a template you're actually allowed to enroll for. This approach is great for testing template changes, validating permissions, or issuing one-off certificates for user logon or secure email. For computer certificates, the critical step is targeting the machine context instead of the user. In MMC, add the certificate snap-in and be sure you choose computer account, then local computer. That routes any enrollment into the local computer's personal store. From there, request a certificate from an appropriate computer or server authentication template. Because this affects system-wide trust, you typically need administrative rights to view, request, or manage these certificates. Web enrollment works like a certificate self-service portal. Users open a browser, authenticate, and either generate a new request online or upload a CSR file they created elsewhere. The web enrollment site forwards that request to the enterprise CA and returns the issued certificate for download. Since this feature is older, modern browsers may block or limit some functionality, so always require HTTPS, strong authentication, and tightly control who can access the site. Certreq gives you a fully scriptable way to enroll for certificates. You start with an INF file that defines exactly what you want: subject names, key length, key usage, and so on. From that, Certreq creates a request file you can send straight to an enterprise CAA, or move to another system for submission. After approval, you run certreq again to accept and install the issued certificate, making the entire workflow repeatable and easier to troubleshoot. A certreq INF file is basically a recipe for your certificate request. The new request section controls the identity and the key, subject name, key length, and which crypto provider and key type to use. You can bind the request to a specific certificate template, which drives key usage and policy. When needed, you include subject alternative names for HTTPS or mail. If any of these values are misstated, you can run into enrollment failures or end up with certificates that clients reject. The certreq workflow follows a straight 3-step path. First, certreq new reads your INF file, generates a request file, and creates the private key locally. Next, certreq submit sends that request to the CA, and you receive the issued certificate file. Finally, certreq accept imports that certificate into the machine's certificate store and binds it to the existing private key. This final step only succeeds if the private key is still present on that same system. PowerShell lets you turn certificate enrollment into a repeatable script instead of a one-off wizard. You can request a certificate with getCertificate, pointing it at a template and a target store location. Then you verify what you received by browsing cert, with getChildItem, for example. Cert, local machine, my. From there, scripts can check key usage, expiration, or issuer across many machines. Just remember, using the correct store context and having appropriate administrative rights are essential. When a request targets a higher risk certificate like a public web server, it often isn't issued automatically. Instead, it lands in the CA's pending queue, where a certificate manager reviews who requested it, what template was used, and whether it aligns with policy. They explicitly choose to approve or deny the request. If it's approved, the requester must later retrieve the certificate using the original request ID, so tracking that ID is critical. Enrollment only matters if the certificate actually works. Start by confirming it landed in the correct store, either current user or local computer based on your design. Next, make sure a private key is present and marked as exportable or not, according to your requirements. Then validate the chain, trusted issuer, valid dates, and no trust errors. Finally, verify that enhanced key usage matches what you need, such as server authentication or client authentication. Manual enrollment is your foundation. You can request certificates with MMC, web enrollment, certreq, or PowerShell. Successful issuance still depends on CA availability, the right templates, proper permissions, and targeting the correct store. Always verify private key presence, chain trust, dates, and EKU. In the next module, we'll move on to automating enrollment and configuring CRL and AIA.